Welcome to BFCN Shorts, where we go around the world and listen to coaches who have been there and done it. Our guest today is Robin Shroot, who is here to tell us about Norway. Enjoy. Robin, thanks for joining us. How are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm really good, thank you, Will. Thank you for having me on. It's a real privilege, I would say, because I've been a big admirer of your website and what you're doing for a long time.
Like I said, it only works because there are so many wonderful, generous coaches in the network that are able to give up their time and their insight like you're doing for us today. So I really appreciate you coming on and educating us about where you've been. So let's start off with telling us, where is it that you've kind of talked to us about?
Sorry, Will, say that one more time. I didn't get that so clearly.
That's all right. Where is it that you've come to talk to us about?
Sorry. I am, yeah, I'm in Trondheim, Norway at the
And
moment, currently.
how long have you been in Trondheim?
I started here 2 years ago after finishing my playing career in Norway. And the opportunity to transition into a full-time coaching role was bestowed upon me, which I grabbed with both hands.
Who is it that you've been coaching for?
Rosenborg Ball Club, which is, like I said, the traditionally the biggest club in Norway. Suffered in recent years, but I am assistant head coach of the senior women's team.
What was it that initially appealed to you about going to Norway?
I I'll be honest, uh, I suffered with mental health issues as a player, and I just I hit rock bottom. I was playing for Stevenage in League One in England, um, and I, for one reason or another, was frozen out of the first team. I was sent to train with the under 16s in a local park, and it was actually a load off my mind. It was joyful to get away from, like, the experience that I was having. And I said, I've always wanted to go abroad and play. And I've got to be honest, like, I left a very good salary and a very good level in England for a bit of the unknown, like a random small club on the west coast of Norway. But it was one that set me up for, the future that I have kind of embarked on, because I combined playing professionally with just immersing myself coaching in the club in the afternoon and evenings. So that was the reason why. Long-winded.
No, it's interesting. Everyone's got vastly different journeys, and there's no one path for coaches to take. So it's really good for people to hear all the different ways that people can end up in the positions they're in. And as much as we like to try and post these jobs, there are plenty of other ways to get them, and everyone's journey is vastly different. So, as a coach and a player, you will be able to tell us, from different perspectives, what the football infrastructure of Norway looks like.
It's a really uh, kind of special and unique football culture, because the clubs are, because of the way that Norway is as a social, like, demographic. It's a socialist country. It's like very inclusive. Like, they want to create opportunity for everyone from, every walk of life, and everyone is treated equally. So the clubs are extremely open. Um, they're extremely open and welcoming. Um, so, like, for example, it's, you know training is open from for the public to come and watch. Even for teams at the highest level, the clubhouse is open. They want people to come and sit with the players and have a coffee, and it's not a celebrity star vibe. Um, and yeah, football clubs are often the hub of the community that they are in. Like, there's Norway is a massive country with not a big population, and everyone loves football. So you get people really giving to their football clubs. Like, there's a big voluntary culture. There's many positives and there's many negatives. It can be difficult for elite players at a younger age because Norway is against how can I put it like most succinctly? Say you're an under 11 player and you're having a blinder and you score a hat trick, they will take you off because they feel that you are depriving the other players of glory or scoring goals. Like, it can be a real problem to hold the best players back because there's a culture of what do we do for the second best players and the next ones behind them, even though there's opportunity for all and teams for everyone if they want to play football. It can provide difficulty to actually enhance the development of those who are the very best and those who are desperate to become elite.
That's a really interesting approach. I've never really heard anything like that before. So, what effect does that have long term on the players? I mean, with such a small population, Norway's always been fairly good at football, but does that approach make lots of decent footballers, but few excellent footballers?
That's a paradoxical question because if you look now at the Norwegian national team, like with the names that we have in the Premier League that we all speak about, Erling and Martin Odegaard, for example, they probably can be, um, you know, they can be described as world-class footballers. But my worry is for the long term in developing truly world-class players because the system can be seen as stifling, like you just said, and that's the worry for all of us who work here. The national game is kind of, what are we going to do to put a 10-15 year plan in place that develops world-class right backs, world-class centre halves, world-class strikers, creative midfielders? It's a really challenging question that I can't answer right now, apart from to say it's in the balance.
It does raise a lot of very interesting questions that I would really like to explore. So maybe on another occasion we can do so. Uh, Regarding the infrastructure itself, I'm just guessing here, but I imagine there'll be a lot of astroturf, a lot of indoor facilities, considering the climate that it has there.
Yeah, that's often that's often a difficulty, because we say the Kunstgras, which Kunstgras means 4G um, generation. They're used to playing on nice, kind surfaces, and especially as I got towards the end of my career, I'd celebrate it when we'd play on a grass pitch, and the lads would be like, "Oh, not sure about that." Like, for us, grass is like the
Mm.
is everything. So futsal's not so. They do play it here, and it is prevalent, especially in winter, and it's very competitive. But yeah, it's a hard one. It's a hard one because they're so reliant on artificial surfaces, and rightly so because of the weather and the greater good aspect, the facility. It provides the community with a facility all year round. No problem of maintaining a grass field, so it's again checks and balances.
Well, speaking regarding coaching, how has your time in Norway benefited you as a coach? What might you have learned there or come to appreciate that you may not have if you stayed back in England?
I think, of course, the cultural exposure to a different culture, whilst we're still in the West, it is still a completely different culture to the one that we are used to back home. Um, they are, it can be, uh, it can appear cold and direct, but once you make an effort, and as we spoke about empathy being so crucial, once you make an effort with people, you actually start to see who and what they are. So I would say working in a different culture has provided me a lifetime of foundation in terms of communication skill, the ability to multitask, the ability to solve problems, because it's not. when working with an under 13 talent group full of girls who are reluctant to speak English, somehow I have to get on their page, get them to trust me, and find a way to impact their learning and impression of football.
What about sorry, my fault for coming on with a sore throat. But what are some of the best things about living in Norway?
I am extremely privileged to work with a group of top class professional athletes. Take gender out of the equation, like the 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 joy, the love, the dedication of the athletes that I work with is like nothing I've ever seen. And that, as coaches, is basically all we want. Like, you want talent is one thing, but if you see application and joy and a natural love for getting better, we can work from midnight till 12 a.m. And I think Norway has got such a strong, or a developing, culture for women's football and excelling the women's game, that I think Norwegian players, young Norwegian female players, and ones who have been in the game for a long time, are slowly but surely seeing an upturn in professionalism and raised standards. And when you give people that, you know what you get back. It's like you invest £1 and you get £1,000,000 back. Like, they are incredible. And I think that's maybe a difference between working with women and men, but I would say very much so in Norway, because um, I guess the landscape of professional sport, and when you are at the level that we are at, these girls have given everything their whole life to become professional athletes at the top level. So you can imagine what, like, the mentalities look like. So it's easy to give, and that's what I would say is probably about being the most fortunate, because me and you live for football. We live to help people, and I can talk about the weather, and it's a nice city and nature is nice, but we want to impact young and older people's lives, and I feel like that's probably the most rich answer I can give you.
I like it.
So Will, if someone was looking to get into coaching women's football, or enhance their own career in terms of skill set and exposure to coaching a different demographic, to come out and work with female athletes in Norway, your coaching will be magnified 100-fold as a result.
So, what do you think actually contributes to that then? Why might it be different there uh, when compared to other places?
I think this is it all relates, but Norway, I think, is one of the countries in the world that invests the most in gender equality, and is very outwardly communicative of its gender equality standing, and therefore it's not frowned upon for girls or young women to play football. And like, you've probably got millions of stories of pushy parents in men's academy football in the UK, but it's like that here also, because the parents care so much. But there's no stigma around having a career or striving to become elite in women's football, which is brilliant because it's taken seriously. We're still miles behind. The men's club have a 3,000 square meter gym. We don't. We have a 300 square meter gym. It's like, but it's still a long way forward from where it was.
Now, tell us about some of the challenges regarding living in Norway. Is it hard to adjust to the cold? Is it hard to adjust to the language?
Um, at the beginning, I really struggled, because for me, coming from the hard knocks upbringing that I had in football in the UK, um, to being told I was in a rota where every whatever 3 weeks I had to collect the balls and clean the locker room. It's like, I'm 26 years of age. I did that when I was 16, 18. But over time, you understand, like, you can't live by your cultural rules in another country. It doesn't work. You have to respect and get on board with them. And if you want to influence things, you have to do it in a constructive way rather than I'm right, you're wrong. That's how we do it, because I've seen many people come to Norway and alienate people and not be able to adapt to what the culture is requiring of them. And like I said, bit by bit, you can get to know people. They can understand you. You can communicate better. The language is hard. I've been here 7 years, and I just about speak it to a fluent level that is okay. But it's not easy. I'll tell you the honest truth. There's never a day where I don't forget that I am an outsider.
What kind of things can you do to mitigate against that? For instance, like, are you able to get a social life? Are people welcoming there?
Yes, yes, some is like in any walk of life or any culture. Um, you have to be willing to meet people and talk and give of yourself before you might get anything back. Fortunately, I've never had a problem with seeking to invest in people and be curious about other people, which I think helps. Um, but like I said, it's not always easy as a foreign person, and you have to be comfortable knowing that you may always have that slight feeling of being on the outside.
What kind of things can you do for fun?
Sauna and then jump in the ice cold fjord. They've set one of those things up near where I live. Um, like things like that's a cultural thing. My girlfriend comes over and it's so different from where we're from. Like there's nice restaurants and but it's more about nature and going out for nice walks, and um, it's not a society that is as used to the cultural exposure that we are back home in terms of like museums and art galleries. Of course they have that, but it's not to I grew up in a city of 10 million people. It's nowhere near. So you have to adapt and find other things like nature and reading and listening to podcasts, being productive and being kind to yourself in equal measure, playing paddle tennis, swimming, keep fit,
So my
those.
understanding of Norway as an outsider has always been that the people there like to be outside, they like to be active, they like to be sporty. Is that the case?
Yeah, very much so. We went for a walk the other day, me and my girlfriend, and like the whole year one, year two, year three were out on by the fjord, by the water. Like, and Anna was like, "Why are they not in school?" And I was like, "This is learning for them. If it's dry, doesn't matter how cold it is, they're outside and they're playing on the rocks, and it's like a very outwardly mobile curriculum, like where it's based climb trees and play with rocks and go in the water. That's a really really good thing about this country.
Do you see that having any kind of effect on their sporting development being such an outdoors nation?
Yes, and at the same time, this is also a paradox. They are an extremely wealthy country, and it's easy for them to go to university. They don't have to pay. The opportunities for education are abundant. Making a career in elite sport is not a necessity. If they encounter some resistance between the age of 16 and 21, the dropout rate is huge because they've never had to they've never had to struggle, many of them. They've never faced adversity, which is why a lot of players, male and female, they've gone abroad, signed for top clubs in Europe. They haven't played, and it's alien to them. And the easiest thing is to come back to Norway, where it's a bit more safe, and they 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 know the football culture. So it's a hard one. The society is both positive and negative for elite sport.
Does that impact your coaching in any way?
I think this is the other thing that we are extremely lucky with. The girls and women are not motivated by money. They're not motivated by cars and like the material things. Like they are at the highest level because they've given everything their whole life. and overcome resistance, especially with sexism and, being told from a young age, probably many times, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't have this, the boys get more opportunities. No, it's as simple as, for example, in the local football association, the under 16 talent group, they get a flight and a hotel to a tournament down south. The girls have to get on the coach and stay in a school. Like they've encountered this from a very young age, yet still managed to get to a level where they're they are top class athletes at the very top of their game. So I think we're beneficial of the sport, like the striving for sporting excellence, taking precedence over not making it, if that makes sense.
Now, thinking back to all those years ago, before you went to Norway, what were some things you may have been worried about? Or what were some potential misconceptions that you or others had about life in Norway?
The first thing I said to my dad, that I was considering going to play there, his answer was, "It's very expensive." And I was like, "Don't worry, I've looked past that." I took a massive hit on my salary from what I was being paid. I was being paid a good League One professional salary in England. Took a massive hit, did struggle financially, but the the impact it had on my life from leaving England to coming out here, it was almost like finding myself again. So it's what are you doing it for? I'm not coming out here to get rich. I'm going out there to fulfill my purpose of whatever it is in life.
The last one, what advice would you give to someone who is considering taking a job in Norway?
The first thing I would say is you have to be prepared to uh, move away from what you consider ideal, what you consider dream, what you consider below you, and you have to be prepared to invest in yourself. And it's hard because I hear many people say, "Oh, I want a job in especially young coaches who are starting out, they expect to be on 35, 40, 45, 50 grand a year, full-time salary. Like it doesn't work like that. You might have to come out here, work in a fourth division club with the after school club and the under nine second team boys or girls, make make your way in the game, film your work, invest in yourself, be good to people, ask for help from clubs higher up the pyramid. Can you go and spend some time and watch how they do it? Connect well with people, invest time in seeing the landscape. I say networking is 95% giving, and you get 5% lucky at the end. That's if you want to work in full-time football, you have to be prepared to work for 10 years, 15 years before you might get a sniff. That's like anything in life, but how richer you will be for when you get the opportunity, you wouldn't be able to do it without the experiences that you accumulate. Take the plunge,
Mm.
think outside the box.
But what's interesting to me is having spoken to a lot of people, in a lot of different countries now, although so much is different about the culture, the climate, and maybe even how football works, what you've just said there has been present throughout. How much you've got to work hard, how much you've got to sacrifice, and take nothing for granted in the football industry.
No, it's I was so like people say to me, "You're so lucky." I'm like, actually, no, I'm not lucky. I started coaching when I was 16. After I was released from a professional academy, I just wanted to give back to kids. And nearly every year in my professional career, which was from the age of 18 to 32, so 14 years, I coached. I worked in school for kids with autism. I worked in schools with kids that got kicked out of mainstream education, whose parents were murderers and rapists. I didn't have, I was fortunate to have a professional playing career, yes, but the reason I am where I am now is without a doubt because of everything that I invested in the coaching part of it. I wasn't given a job because I made time to learn my trade and do my trade, and one day I was fortunate enough to be given an opportunity at the top level for everything that I'd earned. That's how I see it. not because I'm lucky, but I spent 16 years. I applied for my A license 5 times. I did a 3-year bachelor in pedagogy and applied coaching development. Blindfolded, mate, blindfolded. I didn't know I was going to be presented with an opportunity at the top level, but that's, you know, you know how it is. If you invest in yourself and you like anything, you have faith, but you got to be prepared to put the hours in and coach. I would say to anyone, I applied for the A license 5 times between the age of 21 to 32. That's 11. No, 11 years. No, mate, I failed maths GCSE and I took that again. But yeah, that's the reality. Five applications, knock back, knock back, knock back, and then, but whatever.
It's that
Hopefully,
time of year right now where everyone is sharing their exceptions or rejections on Twitter. I think I've seen a lot of A license ones these last couple of days, and yeah, it's persistence. What you said is so profound. On paper, having a job in a good club in Norway looks fantastic, and yeah, people would look at it and be jealous and would call you lucky, but they're only seeing the end result. They haven't seen the hours and hours and hours of hard work, graft, and sacrifice that gets you there in the first place. And I think a lot of people listening will be able to relate to that.
yeah. That's why I think it's brilliant what you're doing, because it gives. I read your articles, like the one that you did where you went to Spain and watched the women's game and you talked about the culture, like all the hours that you've invested doing what you do. You're doing it because, one, you love it, it's a passion, so it doesn't come with any like egotistical I should be. You get joy from what you're doing, and however your career formulates itself, you you will always progress. I don't care what anyone says, you will always progress. And it's hard when I hear the people say, yeah, but the door's shut, you have to have played professionally, you have to do this, you have to do that. It's like, I understand, and I'm not for 1 minute, because I've seen so many lazy ex-professionals get ahead in the game. And it makes me angry. And I had a professional playing career, but you have to be willing to go and get your hands dirty in so many different contexts and have faith that you will progress.
That's very profound, and I cannot add any more to that. So thank you very, very much for your time. You've been exceptionally candid, and we're very, very grateful for the insight and the information that you've provided. So thank you for your time, Robin. Thank you. Really, really appreciate it.
Anytime, Will.
Thank you to Robin for coming on, and thank you to you for joining us. We're always looking to learn about coaching in different locations, so if there's somewhere you could tell us about, we'd love to have you on. See you next time.